you doing this for real? Are you actually serious about this? That was kind of a big shift, and really kind of set the stage for being able to succeed kind of going forward. So
Mhm.
I think it was a really important thing to have that kind of conversation with myself about, are you serious about this?
Welcome to Inside CTOx podcast. I'm Donna, head of membership and partnership, and today we're stepping inside the minds of some of the most innovative tech leaders out there. This isn't just a podcast, it's a place where CTO journeys come alive, where stories of struggles, breakthroughs, and growths unfold. We're here to unpack the experiences of real CTOs navigating through our CTOx Accelerator and membership program. So sit back, tune in, let's get into the story. Today, we're talking with Christopher Grant, a tech leader with nearly 30 years' experience across startups and Fortune 50s. At Home Depot, he led the migration of the $5 billion site with zero downtime. Very impressive. At Google Cloud, he helped shape products and guide enterprise innovation. And now, as founder of Nebari Consulting, he's a fractional CTO helping mid market companies turn tech into business wins. And outside of tech, you'll find him deep in the woods, strumming his guitar and carefully tending to his bonsais. Let's dive into his journey of leadership, innovation, and craft in every sense of the word. Christopher, welcome.
Great, great. Thanks for having me. It's exciting.
My pleasure. Was that an accurate description of you?
It was that. Yeah, it's nice to hear it all pulled together like that. So appreciate that.
Very impressive background there. So thanks for sharing. So what I like to do is let's rewind a little bit, um, back to if you can even remember that far back to before CTO, CTOX. What was the spark that made you say yes to CTOX?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. I think it was really the idea of helping, companies more directly. And, a lot of what I've kind of focused on in the past was, so I had a startup years and years ago before the dot-com bust. And it was just so exciting to work with companies. And then a lot of the things I've been working on with the Fortune 50 companies I've been working on has been really helping them grow. And so, as the years kind of went on and things kind of moved up, it was really exciting to kind of work with smaller and smaller companies. And so, when we started, looking into CTOX and seeing that there is an opportunity to actually, do this on my own, but with the support of, an entire community of people doing the same thing, it was really exciting to be able to, get hands on. And so that was one of the reasons why I initially started looking into it. And yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So thinking back in the accelerator, as you started, was there a particular moment that really, let's say, pushed you to your limits? Like,
Mm.
tell us about that.
Oh yeah, the one that it sounds silly, but the one that really was a challenge is to send my first cold email. So it
Yes.
sounds silly. It's just an email, push a button. But it's funny because kind of being a tech guy, we don't get into a lot of that. And so, did I put the right thing in? Once it's out there, you can't pull it back. And so it was a bit of a learning curve. And honestly, after I had gone through it, I spent way too much time worrying about it. It's one of those things, you get over that first bump and you're like, oh, well, that was nothing. So it's funny because there's just all this stress and consternation about sending that first email, and who's it going to go to? Does it go to two people or 200 people? What? So yeah, no, that was interesting and challenging to get through, but yeah, we got through it. All just fine. Now I'm sending out thousands on a regular basis, so it's good.
That's really good. And what was the thing that just made you like hit that button? Were you just like, I'm just gonna do it today? Was it and something on a particular day, or just peer pressure from the other
Honestly,
CTOXers?
kind of all the above. I mean, it was basically like, I had to like talk myself through it and be like, look, this really isn't a big deal. It's just like the first, and I'm never going to meet these people, well, let me rephrase that. Hopefully, I'll meet some of them. Hopefully, my
Hmm.
my work is useful, and I'll meet some of them, and they'll appreciate it. But in the bigger picture, it's like I don't actually know these people,
Mm.
and so I'm sending out, an introduction, and if it doesn't work, if they don't like me, maybe I'll, not see them again, and I could try again with another group of people. So it was really
Mm.
more of getting in the right headspace for kind of sending
Headspace.
it out, realizing that it's just an ongoing thing, and nothing to really be worried about, I think.
Yeah, that mindset is like such a shift for people. And then once you go there, that's it. It's behind you and you just
Yeah.
power through.
Yeah,
That's great.
it's that first one, it's like, that first step is the hardest step, they say. And so it was the same thing with that one.
And that's true. And looking at your own evolution since joining CTOX, what's caught you most off guard about how you've grown?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it's really the commitment that I have to this, and it's interesting because I see it with other members as well, and it's one of those things that you get out of it what you put into it. And
Yes.
so I think early on I was, balancing my day job with, trying to figure out, is this something I'm going to do, and do you put in the time that you want to put into it? Are you actually doing? I mean, you can kind of do some of the work, but are you really committing to it each week? And so that is
Mhm.
really kind of one of the big things that I noticed. And then really once I kind of asked myself, well, are you doing this for real? Are you actually serious about this? That was kind of a big shift, and really kind of set the stage for being able to succeed kind of going forward. So
Mhm.
I think it was a really important thing to have that kind of conversation with myself about, are you serious about this, or is this
Mhm.
just another thing you're playing with? So yeah, I think it's just really, you put into it, you get out of it what you put into it, and if you only
Mhm.
put in half the effort, you're only going to get out half of the results. So,
Mm.
um,
That's very true. That's very true. And there's a lot of CTOXers that are in a similar situation where, they're working and try to do this kind of either on the side or to try to transition over. What advice do you have for the people in the same situation you were in before you took that
yeah,
leap?
it's an interesting one because you can definitely do it. I think the thing is to treat it like an actual job, like it is
Mm.
your destination, and that this conversation of burning the ships, burning the boats. Are you going to actually commit to it or not? I think one of the things is a lot of people that have regular jobs think about this backup that they have, and they can go to it. So they don't put in the effort. They don't commit as
Mm.
fully as they can. They can get back on that ship and go back to England or wherever wherever they came from.
Mm.
But if you have that mindset that you're going to get fired, that you're going to get laid off, that you're going to quit, that you're no longer going to have this job, then suddenly it kind of comes into perspective that it may not be urgent to do this stuff, but it's extremely important to do this
Mm.
stuff. And I
Mhm.
think part of that is setting up the foundation. So even if you can't put 100% of your effort into it, setting up the foundation on what are the key areas that you actually do need to work on. So for me, one of the more important things was figuring out how to build that pipeline so that when I do, or when I did switch over
Mm.
um, to it full time, that I wouldn't be relying on one client, that I could build a client base. And so that was important
Mm.
for me. Some other people are more interested in building up the IP. They want to build their software, their frameworks, or whatever. So,
Mm.
whatever it is that's most important to you, make sure you're front loading, that piece of it, the most in the time that you do have available. So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it was just really, focusing on, your objectives, and making sure that it's you're doing what's important to you, and not just the urgent day to day tasks that come up from your day job.
Yeah, that's so true. And we will always encourage a pipeline. It does give you a little bit of that security that, you have those leads in the pipeline and you can reach out and engage with them. So that's really, really important. Great point. Um, Thinking about the community, and we're very, very strong in our community from CTOX. Is there a particular connection or relationship or someone that you've met through CTOX that's had a sort of profound impact on you?
That's interesting. I mean, honestly, most of the people that I connect with have been great. I would say George is an interesting person. it really just kind of goes to show what you can do and what you can put into. He's got a lot of the prompts. He's a great example of somebody who contributes to the organization, contributes back.
Yep.
And I think it's that kind of, again, to the point earlier, you get out of it what you put into it.
Mm,
There's a great community there, but if you don't, participate in the community, then you're not really going to get a lot out of it. So I
mhm,
think a lot of it, the people that I've interacted with the most are the people that are in there, contributing and asking the questions, being vulnerable and,
mm,
sharing what they've done, their successes and their failures in all that. And then even when we get on the calls and there's these little nuggets that come up, and then you follow up with somebody after the fact on that, like,
mm,
I heard you say that thing that was really important. That was really cool. And then you
mm,
have these side conversations.
mhm,
It's really engaging. And honestly, that's one of the big things that has kept me with CTOX, beyond kind of going through that first accelerator is the community. It's actually
mhm.
interacting with the people, interacting with, with all the new people that are coming in and the alumni as well, and really kind of sticking with it there. It's just been really, really rich and useful for me.
We get that feedback a lot from the community, like the importance of it. And I think, I've been involved in a lot of communities in the past in various different aspects. And this community by far is the most supportive. Like you talk about being vulnerable and people
Yeah, yeah,
sharing their mistakes and sharing their worries and their fears and there's just so much love that's just poured back in every time somebody has that moment. Like it's just so wonderful to see because it's not a competitive community. It's one of support. Everybody's just rooting for each other and it's so great. You see those posts and somebody like signs a client, everybody's like yay, emojis and congrats and
yeah.
everything. It's fantastic.
And I will say, so I've been a part of a lot of other networks and kind of balancing them, and it was an interesting kind of growth for me to kind of go through some of those other ones and end up with CTOX. And honestly, one of the things that I enjoyed the most about this community is the fact that we're kind of all doing the same thing. We're all
Mhm,
trying to do the fractional CTO thing. We're all struggling with a lot of the same questions. And how do we, that first email is a common thing that comes up for a lot of people.
mhm,
And so it's nice to be able to get on calls where you actually share the same focus, the same direction, the same, kind of not necessarily history, but background, I guess, and what you're trying to do versus kind of some of these other communities where you get people all over the place. But then also, I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, but the networking with the marketing group as well.
mhm.
So it's not like
CMOS.
you're just, yeah, it's not like you're just focused with the technology. There is this cross pollination of the other networking groups as well. So you get the focus of what you're interested in
Mhm,
and what you're focusing on, but you also get to work with other people that are outside of the technology space and kind of work with them a little bit as well. So it's a great mix of focus plus kind of breadth of experiences. So
mhm. No, it's great. It's great. We get so much great feedback from that. And being able to share, like you said, that one moment of, I
yeah,
just need to send that email is so great.
yeah, yeah.
Thinking about that, like what's one insight or mindset shift
Hmm.
through the accelerator that is now a non-negotiable in your toolkit, never going back.
Hmm. Um, Honestly, I think it's probably traceability and tracking of what I'm doing. So,
Mm,
one of the nice things, I'll say it a couple days. One of the nice things and one of the annoying things at the same time is we've got this, this weekly update on how are you doing? How much time did you
mhm,
spend on your, and at first I was like, oh man, there's that other email again. I got to fill this out. And, one of the things is like, they say if you don't track it, you don't, I don't even remember what it was. If you don't, anyways, if you don't put the numbers on it, you're not going to improve it. If you're not
mm,
tracking it, you're not going to improve it. And
mhm,
so it's the same thing with my business, right? So if I'm not tracking how many people I'm reaching out to, if I'm not tracking how much effort I'm putting in with my clients, if I'm not tracking how many calls that I'm actually, on a week,
mhm,
how do I know that I'm improving or growing that? And so that's kind of turned out, from filling out the form and getting this on a regular basis, like, oh, here's a thing that the group's doing, to it's actually something I've internalized, and I've got additional spreadsheets and things that I'm actually tracking now I'm going into my tools and double checking and seeing, I've got my Friday checklist. So, being able to go through and say, hey, I do want to get X number of calls a week that I'm on that are sales calls, or I'm reaching out to my network. How many times did I reach out to my old peers, that I talked to
Mhm.
recently? There's this conversation of 100 cups of coffee, and that's
Yes.
another thing, so reaching out and just having random networking conversations. So I'm tracking a lot of that in
Mhm.
spreadsheets and things now. And honestly, before that, it was really just, how am I doing on my code and how am I, my programming and all the rest of the stuff. So that's really turned into one of those non-negotiables where I don't know how I can succeed without tracking all of those little metrics. And part of that is finding the systems where it's not overkill.
Mm.
It's how do you actually, kind of track that throughout the week without like spending so much time on that. And that's been a good balance there, I think.
That's great to hear because, yeah, tracking is so important. And I think sometimes we track for tracking's sake, which is not the reason we do it, or we track it because one of our VAs just hound you until you answer.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
But actually, the tracking is success is about making a lot of small moves. It's
Right, right.
small tweaks, small improvements that all add up to one big shift. And the only real way to do that is to track through and say, okay, what have I done last week, what worked, what didn't, let's tweak something, reevaluate it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I think it's one thing that, yeah, we all like initially kind of rile against, but that's kind of where the success
Yeah.
comes from, so it's good to hear
Yeah.
that.
And one of the things is, the hardest thing about change is change, right? And so if we're not used to doing, something new, it's going to
Mm,
feel awkward at first. And I think that's one of the things is like, the sales calls, the accountability sessions, all of this stuff feels awkward at first when you first get in there because you're not used to it. And these are some of the things that you need to get through.
mhm,
And then once you learn, that it's like that first email. Like
mm,
once you learn that these things aren't scary, that they're not, it's really comfortable and it's a good community. And so
yes.
everybody's there to help. And these are proven patterns that work. It's just a matter of trying them out. And then, like I said, I've got additional spreadsheets. So it's go through and learn what you're supposed to do the job, the lessons, do the lessons and what you're
Mhm.
taught, and then modify it for, your own organization, your own personal needs. And so, I think
Exactly.
that's one of the things there is just, trust the process to some degree.
Trust the process. We love that. We love that.
Yeah.
Um, okay, switching gears a little bit here. If we were to check in a year from now,
Mm.
what's something that you hoped will be different, or let's say radically better, because of the journey through CTOX?
Hmm. Well, obviously, clients are a good thing there. Let's see. I think honestly, it's the engagement that I'm. So I would say the one thing that I think would be radically better is the engagement with my network.
Mm,
So having shifted through the Fortune 50 companies and through Google, a lot of the times what happens is you end up just focusing on the people that you're working with
mm,
day in day out, and you get kind of this bubble that you live in. And it was exceptionally so at Google. Google's so big that there's so many people that you don't get outside of your bubble, and so one of the things that, and it gets back to the community thing, is engaging with the community, talking with people in different industries, working in different niches. And so a year from now, really, how have I expanded that, beyond CTOX? How have I
mm,
reached out to other, groups, other people? How have I expanded my network? How have I built my own networks? And a lot of that is really, driven from what I've learned with CTOX.
mm,
The reason why I ended up here and why I renewed and why I'm, still with it is because of the way that it works, the way that it exceeds the way that it succeeds. And a lot of the other groups that I've been with, haven't really had that. And so,
mm,
I've learned a lot about how, to successfully, engage with people,
mm,
pushing myself to have those multiple calls, to go through and, the accountability sessions, all the rest of that, and even just the office hours that are set up,
mm,
to drop in and have conversations. There's just so many different avenues with the CTOX community that I've seen a lot of ways to kind of implement that with other people that I work with. Just to drop
Mm,
in, have virtual coffee. So I think a year from now, it's really switching from just the individual project focus and the work that I do one on one with people to just having a broader network, a larger group of people that I'm really engaged with, working with, talking with, and just generally be enjoy being around. So
mm. Yeah, building that network is like it's such an important part. I mean, definitely the what we've seen is those that have been the most successful definitely have that network and are able to reach out and build that network. And
yeah,
to those that don't have a network, we're saying, get out there and start building one. It's never
yeah,
too late. It's like a mailing list. It's never too late to build that network and
yeah,
optimize for conversations. Sometimes we get into the little bit of like sell, 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 sell. We're just trying to like close those clients. And we
yeah,
forget that actually human conversations are such an important part of this whole thing.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So more conversations is what we want to see.
definitely.
Okay. Thank you, Christopher. All right. Now, Christopher doesn't know this like any of our previous guests, but we have our final segment. We're gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna ask
You got me a little worried
ChatGPT.
here.
I know you're a little bit worried. Don't relax. Relax. I'm going to ask ChatGPT live because we all love ChatGPTs. We got a bunch of customized ChatGPT, so we thought we got to get it involved in this podcast. So I'm going to ask it for a question to ask you,
Oh,
completely generated on the spot, and you got to answer it. Are you game?
oh wow. All right, all right. We'll try it. We'll try it.
Okay, let's see what it says. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna
You need
ask
like
it in. Yeah, I'm not gonna type. I'm gonna speak because my typing's gonna be terrible. So, hello, ChatGPT. We love a bit of spontaneity, so we thought who better to challenge us than AI. What question would you like to ask a fractional CTO at this exact moment in time? Okay. Hmm. Okay. This is a little bit different.
uh-oh.
Don't worry, it's not about AI. So, ChatGPT would like to know, Christopher, if legacy tech had a voice, what do you think it would say to you right now? Would it plead for mercy, argue for redemption, or whisper secrets you've ignored?
I like that one actually.
That's a good one for you.
Really like that one because I work with legacy tech a
Yeah.
lot. One of the things I think I've learned over the years, and is very relevant here is so I think the answer is the last one there, which is the secrets portion
Mm,
of that, and the reason I say that is because every time that I've approached legacy tech or worked with teams that have approached legacy tech, the first thing that the developer wants to do, the first thing that anybody wants to do is to change it, is to fix it, to make it better. And a lot of that is not necessarily because it's broken, it's because it's old.
mm,
And there's a lot of times where things were put in place for a reason, right? And a lot of times I see engineers just going through the motion to change things without actually trying to understand why was something done this way, why was something done that way. And then you see that engineers end up in a worse boat because they ignored the reason it was done in the first place, and then
mm,
they add on extra layers of complexity or novelty or whatever the new thing is. And so I think that legacy tech would probably tell me secrets about why it was the way it was, and maybe things where the bodies are buried on the bad code, because yeah, I would feel like the legacy tech would want a little bit of an upgrade, but also there's lessons learned in there about
mm.
what to do and what not to do. So I would hope that the legacy tech would tell me some of those secrets, to help me out in the future.
That's a good one. That's a really good
Thank you, ChatGPT, for
response.
that question. I appreciate that. Good question.
It does come up with some good stuff, doesn't it? All right. Well, listen, Christopher, thank you so much for sharing your journey, sharing your insights with us today. We really appreciate
Great.
your time. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a great session. Thank you.
Stories, experiences, and advice you hear today are incredibly valuable, not just for CTOs, but for the broader tech community and leaders. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Inside CTOx. Don't forget to follow us on social media, tag us, and share your favorite insights from the episode. We love hearing your feedback. Make sure to subscribe and check in again for our next episode, where we'll continue to explore the stories behind the tech leaders shaping the future. Until next time.